Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take the vast, complex stacks of articles, data, and history that define a subject and distill them into the absolute essential knowledge you need, the insights that truly shift your perspective.
And today, we are undertaking a monumental task. I mean, really monumental. We're examining a sports career so long, so dominant, and so statistically improbable that it spans 23 NFL seasons.
23 seasons. It bridges multiple eras of the sport.
It really does. We are diving deep into the anatomy of the greatest quarterback of all time, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr.
It's fascinating to try and process that much sustained excellence. Our source material today isn't just a list of games. It's a career that looks less like a personal journey and more, like a detailed timeline of American football history from 2000 to 2023.
Right.
So our mission is to trace this improbable arc, find the surprising nuggets, and understand the mechanisms, the discipline, the injuries, the controversies that fueled it all.
And when you just look at the headline numbers, they truly defy logic. 7 Super Bowl titles. To put that in perspective, that is more Super Bowls than any franchise in NFL history has ever won. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the New England Patriots, they both sit at 6. Brady has 7 by himself.
It's an achievement that seems almost mathematically impossible in a league that is literally designed for parity.
Exactly.
Then beyond the championships, he collected, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 NFL MVPs, and retired as the career leader in the 3 most critical categories: wins, passing yards, and passing touchdowns.
Right. But to understand the true cost and commitment of that dominance, we can't start at the mountaintop.
No. We have to start where the mountain didn't even exist yet.
Exactly. The foundational mythology of Brady's career is that he was never supposed to be here. So, Section 1 of our deep dive focuses on the improbable origin story before the NFL spotlight.
Okay, let's unpack this. He's born in San Mateo, California in 1977, and we know he grew up just steeped in Bay Area football history.
Our sources emphasize that he wasn't just a fan of the 49ers. He idolized Joe Montana, who was, the definitive quarterback of the 1980s.
The GOAT of his era.
For sure. And here's a detail that feels almost predestined, like something out of a movie script. At the age of 4, in January 1982, Brady was actually in attendance at Candlestick Park for the 1981 NFC Championship game.
Wait, not that game.
Yes, that one. The one featuring Dwight Clark's game-winning reception, famously known as the catch.
Wow.
So that image watching the original Go engineer, one of the most iconic moments in football history, was literally the earliest seed of his passion.
He's a product of California, but the sources also detail his deep, pretty complex European heritage.
They do. His mother, Galen, is a true melting pot. She has Swedish, Norwegian, German, and Polish ancestry. Meanwhile, his father, Thomas Sr., is proudly 100% Irish. It's a global background for what would become a global sports figure.
But the high school narrative is where the pattern of just nonstop grinding really begins. At Junipero Serra High, success was not instantaneous.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We often imagine these sports legends just dominating from day one, but Brady's story is the absolute opposite.
The facts here are astounding. He started as the backup quarterback on the junior varsity team. And get this.
The JV team was 0-8 and hadn't scored a single offensive touchdown all year long.
0 touchdowns.
0. Not until Brady took over because the starter got injured. So his first real experience was basically trying to salvage a complete disaster.
And he wasn't even singularly focused on football either, which is such a key note on how modern athletes have evolved.
Right. He was a genuine multi-sport athlete, playing basketball, baseball, and football. This versatility gave him options, and those options became a really serious alternative path.
Which brings us to the path not taken, and it's a massive what-if in sports history.
It is. Brady was good enough at baseball, a powerful left-handed hitting catcher, to be drafted by the Montreal Expos.
The Expos?
Yes, in the 18th round of the 1995 MLB draft. He was offered professional money, a real career path in baseball.
And the sources provide this remarkable historical footnote about that decision.
It's incredible. When Brady finally retired from playing professional sports in 2023, he was the last active Montreal Expos draft pick in any professional sport to do so.
That's insane.
That level of longevity, just demonstrated by that one fact alone, is staggering. It shows just how many generations of athletes he completely outlasted.
But he chose football, committing to the University of Michigan, and the struggle, just intensified. He later described it as one of the hardest periods of his life.
He redshirted in 1995, then spent 2 full seasons as a backup. including the one where Brian Grease led the Wolverines to a share of the national championship.
He was just watching from the
And the
sidelines.
frustration was real because he wasn't just second string. He started his college career 7th on the depth chart.
7th. That is truly the end of the line in college football. You don't come back from that.
Usually not. The source material reveals the sheer mental anguish this caused him. He struggled profoundly with anxiety and frustration, feeling lost. He was even considering transferring to Cal Berkeley just to get a shot at playing.
This is such a foundational insight into his character, you know?
Mm.
The legend of Brady is this unbreakable, hyper-confident machine. But the reality is that the machine was built through overcoming that internal doubt.
Right. He actually hired a sports psychologist, a man named Greg Harden, to manage his severe frustration and anxiety and to build the mental framework he needed to survive at a high-pressure program like Michigan.
Think about that for a minute, Yoon. The greatest of all time, the symbol of clutch performance, had to actively seek psychological help just to stay on the roster in college.
He would later credit Harden, saying his advice was sound not just for athletics, but for navigating life's challenges in general. It just proves that the mental invincibility was a discipline. It was learned. It was not an inherent trait.
And his ascent required fighting tooth and nail, primarily against the highly recruited Drew Henson.
Oh yeah, Henson was the golden boy.
Oh.
A two-sport phenom, a star QB, and a Major League Baseball prospect. He was constantly viewed as the future of the program.
So for 2 seasons, Brady is battling Henson for snaps, and he didn't secure the undisputed starting job until late in his senior year.
But once he was confirmed as the starter, that clutch gene, that ability to deliver under pressure, it really began to emerge.
His defining college moment, for sure, was the 2000 Orange Bowl against Alabama.
Absolutely. He led the team back from 2 different 14-point deficits in the same game. A truly Herculean effort that ended in an overtime victory.
He finished that game with 35 completions, which set a BCS bowl game record at the time. He walked away with a 25 record as a starter. He proved he was a winner.
And yet, the NFL scouts seemed completely blind to all of it.
Which leads us to the pivotal moment, the draft steal of 2000. The fact he went 199th overall is the greatest gift the NFL ever gave him. It just cemented that chip-on-the-shoulder motivation for the next 2 decades.
And we have to talk about why he went 199th. If you look at the old pre-draft reports, scouts were just not impressed.
Not at all.
They saw a tall, kind of gangly quarterback, lacking great arm strength, and critically lacking mobility. The infamous photo of him shirtless at the combine.
Oh, that photo. It's become a historical punchline,
Yeah.
standing next to all these chiseled physical marvels.
Right. He ran a 5.28-second 40-yard dash, which is glacier-like for a quarterback. He was the 7th quarterback drafted that year. It wasn't just that he was picked late. It's that he lacked the physical gifts the league was actively scouting for in the year 2000.
So the Patriots take him with the 34th pick of the 6th round, and his rookie year, 2000, reflects that draft status completely. He started the season as the 4th-string QB.
Way behind Drew Bledsoe, John Freese, and Michael Bishop.
His rookie stat line tells the whole story of that obscurity. 1 for 3 passing for a total of 6 yards.
1 completion.
1. That singular completion was caught by a tight end named Rod Rutledge. He was a complete and total afterthought.
And that anonymity brings us directly into Section 2. Building the New England dynasty, 2001-2010. This is the period where destiny collided with opportunity and controversy.
The moment everything changed arrived in Week 2 of the 2001 season. The Patriots were 0-2 and struggling. Franchise quarterback Drew Bledsoe scrambled toward the sideline and suffered this vicious yet clean hit from Jets linebacker Mo Lewis.
That hit didn't look like much on TV, but the consequences were internal and devastating. Bledsoe suffered a sheared blood vessel in his chest, which led to internal bleeding. It was a serious, life-threatening injury.
And in steps Tom Brady, starting in Week 3.
The change was immediate, and frankly, it was surprising. Brady wasn't flashy, but he was efficient and so composed. In Week 5, he engineered this crucial comeback victory against the Chargers, earning his first AFC Offensive Player of the Week nod.
And he ended the regular season leading the Patriots to an 11-3 record as a starter, securing the AFC East title. Just an incredible turnaround.
His ascent into legend was then immediately baptized by fire and historical controversy in the divisional round against the Oakland Raiders. This is, of course, the Tuck Rule game.
This is perhaps the single most significant rule interpretation that ever launched a sports dynasty.
No question. It was a blizzard in Foxborough. Trailing late in the 4th quarter, Brady dropped back, was hit by Charles Woodson, and appeared to fumble the ball.
Which was recovered by the Raiders. If it was a fumble, the game was over. Season's done.
But here's the critical rule interpretation. The technical language of the tuck rule stated that if the quarterback has begun a forward throwing motion and then attempts to tuck the ball back down to his body and the ball comes loose, it's deemed an incomplete pass, not a fumble.
So the officials reviewed it, they invoked the tuck rule, and the decision was reversed to an incomplete pass. Patriots keep the ball.
They maintained possession, drove for the tying field goal, and eventually won in overtime 16-13. That reversal didn't just win a game, it ensured that the dynasty was born. Without that technicality, Brady's sophomore season ends right there.
That win catapulted them to Super Bowl XXX, and they were staggering 14-point underdogs against the St. Louis Rams.
The greatest show on turf. Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, the league's most explosive offense.
The sources recount this phenomenal anecdote from the final moments of that game. The score is tied. Patriots get the ball back with a minute and a half left, starting at their own 17-yard line.
Right. And John Madden, who was broadcasting the game, vehemently argued that the Patriots should just run out the clock and play for overtime.
He's basically saying, don't trust the kid. A vote of no confidence from a football icon.
But Brady ignored him completely. Yeah. He led this composed, calculated drive of short, precise passes, getting them into position for Adam Vinatieri.
The greatest clutch kicker of the era.
To hit a 48-yard field goal as time expired. They won 2017.
And just like that, the 199th pick, the kid who was 7th on the depth chart at Michigan, became, at 24 years and 6 months, the youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Snatching the record from his childhood idol, Joe Montana.
That victory settled everything. Bledsoe was traded that April, and the job was Brady's forever.
The early dynasty then consolidated with back-to-back Super Bowl wins in 2003 and 2004. In Super Bowl XXVIII against the Panthers, Brady proved that first win wasn't a fluke. He earned his second Super Bowl MVP, setting a record at the time with 32 completions, and once again led a game-winning field goal drive with just over a minute left on the clock.
And the dominance continued the very next year, winning Super Bowl XX9 against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Patriots, during this stretch, set a record for the longest winning streak in NFL history at the time.
21 consecutive games, including the postseason. They were the most consistent winners the league had ever seen.
What's fascinating about those mid-2000 years is the adaptability. The Patriots dealt with injuries and shifting personnel, forcing the offense to rely less on a traditional power run game and more heavily on Brady's arm.
And his mind. In 2005, he responded by leading the league in passing yards with over 4,100. He showed he could win not just within a system, but by becoming the system.
This evolution culminated in the statistical explosion of 2007. This season was the definitive proof that he wasn't merely a beneficiary of Bill Belichick's defense, but a powerhouse quarterback in his own right.
Oh, the 2007 season was legendary. The Patriots went 16-0 in the regular season, the first team since the '72 Dolphins to have a perfect record and the most wins in a single regular season by a starting QB.
His individual performance was just overwhelming. He won his first NFL MVP award, and it was a unanimous decision.
Right. That speaks volumes about his statistical superiority that year. He led the league in, well, virtually every major metric. Completion percentage, passer rating, and passing touchdowns with 50, which broke the single-season record at the time.
His precision was unbelievable. The sources highlight his performance in the divisional round against the Jaguars that year.
He started that game with an NFL postseason record, 16 consecutive completed passes, 16 in a row. He finished the game with a 92.9% completion rate, the highest single-game completion percentage in NFL postseason history for a quarterback with at least 20 attempts. That is surgical.
That sets us up for the second half of his New England tenure, a period of immense challenge and triumph. Let's shift our focus to Section 3, defining moments, injuries, and Deflategate, 2008-2019.
The perfect run of 2007 cemented his place, but what came next tested his physical limits and his public reputation.
And the first test came immediately. In Week 1 of the 2008 season against the Chiefs, Brady suffers a major season-ending injury.
Yeah, he tore his ACL and MCL. This ended his season and snapped his incredible streak of 111 consecutive starts.
Hang on, though. This wasn't just a standard knee reconstruction. The source material detailed a much more serious issue.
It does. Post-surgery, he developed an infection in the wound that required multiple debridement surgeries.
That detail is critical and often missed in the headline narrative. Debridement is the process of removing dead, damaged, or infected tissue to promote healing.
And the fact that multiple debridement procedures were necessary underscores that this was a potentially career-threatening, maybe even life-threatening infection. It wasn't just a rehab challenge. It was a race against a serious physical health battle that could have fundamentally altered his recovery.
Yet the comeback was pure Brady discipline. In 2009, he won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award. And despite playing the season with a broken right ring finger and 3 fractured ribs—
Small, often forgotten injuries, the sources highlight.
right, he still threw for almost 4,400 yards.
And the specific performance against the Titans in 2009 showcased the explosive power he retained. In that 59-0 blowout, he set an NFL record for most touchdowns in a single quarter, throwing 5 touchdowns in the second quarter alone.
5 in 1 quarter.
He finished with 6 total and a near-perfect 152.8 passer rating. The injury hadn't lowered his ceiling, it had just raised the bar for what he had overcome.
He claimed his second MVP in 2010, again by unanimous decision, but the 2011 season brought the unwelcome return of the Giants' curse. Super Bowl XL's is a brutal rematch against Eli Manning in New York.
The game started disastrously, with an intentional grounding penalty in their own end zone, resulting in a safety for the Giants.
Not ideal.
No. But Brady fought back, putting together a Super Bowl record of 16 consecutive completions at one point. But, in a familiar pattern, the Patriots lost a late lead, falling 21-17. It was his second Super Bowl loss, both to the same team and the same quarterback.
And that leads us directly into the most contentious, reputation-defining moment of his career— Deflategate.
Right, from the 2014 AFC Championship game. And we need to handle this impartially, strictly focusing on the facts and the critical context the sources provide.
The allegation, of course, was that footballs used by the Patriots were intentionally deflated below the minimum 12.5 psi to gain a competitive advantage in the cold weather.
In May 2015, the NFL's investigative report concluded it was more likely than not that Brady was at least generally aware of the intentional deflation.
So the initial punishment was a 4-game suspension, which NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell upheld. And this is a key detail. Goodell publicly cited Brady's destruction of his cell phone as a critical factor in upholding the suspension.
Right, implying a failure to cooperate and an obstruction of the investigation. This became a major point of contention in the ensuing legal battle.
And that legal saga was a prolonged mess. A federal judge initially vacated the suspension, which allowed Brady to play the entire 2015 season.
But the NFL successfully appealed that ruling, and the U.S. Appeals Court ultimately upheld the 4-game ban. Brady finally accepted the suspension at the start of the 2016 season.
But the complete context requires us to address the scientific and subsequent reporting around the incident, which really complicates the whole narrative.
Absolutely. The science involves the ideal gas law. The argument is that the measured pressure drop in the footballs was primarily, or maybe entirely, due to the cold air temperature outdoors compared to the room temperature where they were initially measured.
Colder air causes a gas's pressure to decrease naturally. Basic physics.
The critical context comes from subsequent reporting. A 2022 suggestion by sports writer Mike Florio, referencing data analysis, proposed that the NFL may have falsified or misrepresented data, and that 11 of the 12 Patriots footballs were, in fact, within the predicted ideal gas law range. Only 1 ball was reportedly below that range.
Wow. So that reporting, which the NFL has not fully addressed, throws significant ambiguity onto the severity of the offense and maybe the motives behind the punishment.
It does. What it doesn't change, however, is the impact the controversy had on Brady's reputation and his motivation in 2016.
If the penalty was meant to diminish him, it achieved the exact opposite. He returned from that suspension with a vengeance, leading to what many regard as the single most impressive victory of his career: Super Bowl LI against the Atlanta Falcons.
This game is legendary. You cannot discuss Tom Brady without emphasizing the 28-3 deficit they faced midway through the third quarter.
28-3, that is a chasm. No team in Super Bowl history had ever come back from more than a 10-point deficit.
That moment, when the score was 28-3, was the ultimate crisis point. The Falcons had a 99.6% win probability.
99.6.
Yet Brady proceeded to lead 5 consecutive scoring drives, tying the game and forcing the first Super Bowl overtime in history.
In that comeback, he just obliterated the Super Bowl record book. He set new marks for completions, 43, attempts, 62, and yards, 466.
And when James White scored the game-winning touchdown in overtime, Brady secured his 5th Super Bowl ring, the most ever by a quarterback, and his record-extending 4th Super Bowl MVP.
And the sources reveal this poignant personal dimension to that triumph. Super Bowl LI was the first game his mother, Gallon, had attended in person all season.
Right. She'd been undergoing chemotherapy treatments for cancer. That victory carried this profound emotional weight well beyond the trophy.
The competitive fire did not extinguish. He returned the following year, 2017, and reached Super Bowl LI against the Philadelphia Eagles. And while they lost that shootout, 41-33.
Brady set a new single-game postseason record with 505 passing yards. Just an incredible performance, even in a loss.
But that loss also brought two other important non-game-related details to light. First, his then-wife, Gisele Bündchen, stated in a May 2017 interview that Brady had suffered a concussion in 2016.
And the NFL publicly denied having any records indicating Brady suffered a head injury or concussion symptoms. His agent also issued a statement denying any diagnosis.
So it sparked this brief but intense public discussion about player safety and how injuries are reported or perhaps concealed at the highest level of the sport.
And statistically, that third Super Bowl loss put him in an exclusive but unwanted club. He joined Jim Kelly, Fran Tarkenton, and John Elway as the only starting quarterbacks in history to lose at least 3 Super Bowls.
Even the greatest of all time has to endure those defining setbacks.
But he secured one final Patriots ring in Super Bowl III in the 2018 season. They defeated the Rams 13-3 in what became the lowest-scoring Super Bowl in history.
And that victory cemented 2 key records.
First, he became the oldest quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl at 41. And second, and crucially, he became the first player, regardless of position, to win 6 Super Bowls, surpassing defensive legend Charles Haley.
6 rings. That was the official perfect capstone to the New England dynasty.
And that transition brings us to the seismic shift in the NFL landscape in 2020. We move to Section 4, Tampa Bay, and the end of the playing career, 2020-2023.
After 20 years, the relationship with New England and Bill Belichick finally fractured. On March 17, 2020, he announced he would not re-sign with the Patriots.
Just 3 days later, he signed a 2-year, $50 million fully guaranteed contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
This was a massive decision, not just for the league, but for his legacy. He left stability for a team that had finished 7-9 the year prior. The expectation was immense.
And the sources revealed he didn't just join the team, he became the chief strategist.
That is a critical point. The Bucs were desperate for a culture change, and Brady brought his culture with him. The sources confirmed that Brady himself was adamant about reuniting with his favorite target,
Rob Gronkowski.
He successfully recruited Gronk out of retirement to join him in Tampa Bay.
The transition wasn't seamless, though. Despite proving his durability, immediately becoming the oldest quarterback to have a 5-touchdown game at age 43 in Week 4, he faced significant struggles adapting to head coach Bruce Arians' system.
The low point came in Week 9, where the Bucs suffered the most lopsided loss of his entire career, 38-3 against the New Orleans Saints.
He was also swept by a divisional opponent for the first time in his 20-year career. The transition to the NFC was clearly a difficult adjustment.
And that struggle created a major career first. For the first time in his professional career, he didn't win his division. The Buccaneers settled for a wild card spot,
which forced him to have to win 4 straight road games to lift the Lombardi Trophy.
But the wild card status became another chapter in this improbable story. Brady led the Buccaneers to become only the 7th wild card team in history to win the Super Bowl.
And along the way, he had to beat Drew Brees in the divisional round and Aaron Rodgers in the NFC Championship, 2 legendary quarterbacks he rarely faced in the playoffs.
That postseason run culminated in Super Bowl LV. And Tampa Bay achieved another historical first. They became the only team in NFL history to play in and win a Super Bowl in its home stadium.
And they routed the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, 31-9.
7 rings. He secured his 7th Super Bowl ring and his record-extending 5th Super Bowl MVP.
This made him the second quarterback, after Peyton Manning, to win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams, but the first to win SB MVP with 2 different teams, and the first to win championships in both the AFC and NFC conferences.
That victory also solidified his place in the broader history of professional football. By winning 7 championships, Brady tied Otto Graham,
a dominant quarterback of the 1940s and 50s,
for the most league championships by a player in professional football history. The scope of that longevity is nearly 80 years long.
Yet behind that victory, the physical cost was extraordinary. The sources revealed in 2021 that Brady had played the entire 2020 Super Bowl winning season with a torn MCL in his knee.
This is an incredible detail that highlights his pain tolerance and his dedication to secrecy. Remember the 2008 injury? That was an ACL-MCL tear requiring multiple surgeries.
Right.
The 2020 injury was just the MCL tear, but playing a full contact season, including 4 playoff games and the Super Bowl, with a significant knee ligament tear is almost unheard of for a quarterback, especially at age 43.
And the NFL had no comment on the matter, suggesting it was kept quiet by the team and the player.
The dominance continued despite the injury. In 2021, at age 44, he led the entire league in passing yards with over 5,300, becoming the oldest QB to ever achieve that feat.
The Buccaneers finished that regular season 13-4, their best record in franchise history.
Then came the brief, jarring end, or so we thought. On February 1st, 2022, Brady announced his retirement after 22 seasons.
But the retirement lasted only 40 days. On March 13, he announced his return to the Buccaneers for the 2022 season.
That 40-day saga, the brief time away and the quick return, suggests a real emotional struggle and a deep dependency on the game. He simply wasn't ready to let go, even after achieving everything.
The 2022 season, his final one, became an exercise in statistical volume. Even as the team around him began to decline, he became the oldest quarterback to start an NFL game in history. And he became the first quarterback ever to reach the 100,000 career passing yards milestone, combining regular season and postseason totals.
But that unprecedented volume came at a cost. He set new single-season NFL records for completions, 490, and attempts of 733. When you look at that attempts number, 733, that is a reflection of the team's inability to run the ball.
And the physical toll reflected that workload. He officially became the most sacked quarterback in NFL history, accumulating 555 sacks taken over his career.
The ultimate sign of decline for the team was the final record, 8-9. This marked the first career losing season for Brady as a starting quarterback.
A massive streak also ended in November 2022. He was 20-18-0 when his team led by at least 7 points in the final 2 minutes of regulation, until the Cleveland Browns finally broke that record.
But even in the decline, the clutch gene resurfaced. Just weeks after that Browns loss, he engineered a 13-point fourth-quarter comeback against the Saints.
Which was only the second time in his career he had achieved a fourth-quarter comeback of 13-plus points, the other being Super Bowl LI. It proves that the mental discipline, even when the body was struggling, was still intact.
The final curtain fell on February 1st, 2023, when he announced his retirement for good. The accolades quickly followed, reflecting the immediate historical status he achieved.
The Patriots organization waived the traditional 4-year waiting period for their Hall of Fame induction, inducting him immediately.
And the induction ceremony date itself was chosen for symbolic reasons, June 12, 2024.
Right. June, the 6th month, reflects his 6 championships, and the 12th reflects his jersey number. It was a perfectly constructed piece of historical theater.
And as a definitive historical acknowledgement, the Patriots formally retired his number 12 jersey, and they are constructing a 12-foot-tall statue of Brady at Gillette Stadium.
And we must note one final pull toward the game. In December 2023, the sources reveal Brady stated in an Instagram post that he heavily considered unretiring a second time in May 2023.
Wow.
He was ready to come back until his friends hosted a surprise retirement party, which forced him to decide against it. Even after the official retirement, the pull of the game remained intense, suggesting a deep internal conflict.
Let's move now to Section 5, the enduring legacy, records, business, and lifestyle. We've discussed the career arc, but we need to analyze the specific components that sustained him and what his post-playing career looks like.
We have to reiterate this statistical dominance because it's the quantifiable core of the Jew-8 argument. His ability to maintain peak performance over 23 seasons resulted in records that may never ever be broken.
It's not just the Super Bowl wins, which are a team metric. It's the career volume and consistency. 251 career quarterback wins, 89,214 passing yards, and 649 passing touchdowns. When you combine those, it's not just an outlier, it's an entire statistical universe unto itself.
And the clutch factor is built into the numbers. Most game-winning drives with 58, and most fourth-quarter comebacks with 46. This shows that the player who won Super Bowl XXVI with a minute left still had that same focus and composure 20 years later.
The playoff dominance is equally overwhelming. He started 48 playoff games.
48. That's an entire 3 seasons worth of games just in the postseason.
Right. He won 35 of them. He threw for 13,400 yards in the playoffs. And crucially, he made 14 conference championship appearances.
Which means for nearly 2/3 of his career, he was playing the second last game of the year. It's just absurd consistency.
Beyond the playing metrics, the professional honors confirm his status. 15 Pro Bowls, named to both the NFL 2000s and 2010s All-Decade teams, and honored as one of the definitive players on the NFL 100th anniversary all-time team.
The moment he announced his first retirement, the media world mobilized, leading to his post-playing career being nearly as groundbreaking as his playing days.
He clearly understood the financial value of his brand.
Correct. He secured the highest-paid sports commentator deal in history with Fox Sports.
Huh.
A staggering $375 million over 10 years, which he is set to begin in 2024. This isn't just an analyst job. It's a massive financial commitment based on his marketability.
And he didn't stop there. He launched 199 productions.
A subtle, constant nod to his draft pick number, turning his greatest professional slight into his brand identity.
Right, and he was the subject and executive producer of The Roast of Tom Brady on Netflix, a massive spectacle that drew 2 million live viewers, showing his ability to control his narrative and market himself even in self-deprecating comedy.
And he transformed from a player to a savvy sports owner. He acquired a 5% partial ownership stake in the Las Vegas Raiders, which was approved by the NFL.
Critically, he is also a partial owner of the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces.
That's right. The sources highlight that he's investing not just in the established male sports hierarchy, but in winning enterprises across different leagues, showcasing a broader business acumen.
Let's shift to the philosophy that fueled this longevity. The sources detail his famous lifestyle and dietary commitment, the TB12 method.
The TB12 method is essentially a holistic approach to athletic performance based on 2 core concepts: extreme pliability and a stringent anti-inflammatory diet.
The method claims that maintaining muscular pliability through intense massage and resistance training prevents injuries and aids rapid recovery, allowing athletes to perform longer.
And the diet is infamous. It's primarily plant-based and requires strictly avoiding pro-inflammatory foods. Famously, this includes nightshade vegetables like tomatoes, mushrooms, and peppers, which some believe cause inflammation.
The question is, was it science or superstition?
Well, the sources note that this lifestyle and diet was adopted by key teammates like Rob Gronkowski and even professional athletes outside of football, like NHL star Mark Scheifele and NFL quarterback Kirk Cousins.
So whether or not every detail is scientifically validated, the discipline required to maintain such a regimen for 2 decades is undeniably the mechanism of his longevity. It made him a complete outlier.
For sure.
Finally, we must touch on the political connections, reporting impartially on the public record as mandated by our mission. Brady has been publicly known as a friend of Donald Trump since 2001.
The sources confirm this long-standing relationship. Trump called Brady during the 2016 campaign to say he supported him and had voted for him. However, Brady was consistently careful to maintain a distance between his personal relationship and any public political endorsement.
Indeed. Brady declined an invitation to speak at a 2016 Republican National Convention. He explained in a later interview that political support is totally different than the support of a friend, suggesting a desire to avoid that polarizing public spotlight.
Furthermore, his then-wife, Cecil Bündchen, publicly stated on Instagram that neither she nor Brady backed Trump. This highlights the careful public relations calculation involved.
He maintained a private friendship while publicly distancing himself from the polarizing public endorsement, demonstrating the ultimate control he exerted over his carefully constructed brand. Here's where it gets really interesting. We trace the journey of the guy who almost transferred out of Michigan, the 199th pick, the one who fought back from a life-threatening post-surgical infection, and the 44-year-old winning the Super Bowl with a torn MCL. It is an insane synthesis of mental resilience and physical persistence.
It truly is. His career is bookended by adversity and unprecedented achievement. He is tied with Otto Graham for the most league championships in professional football history by a player 7. That scope, from the early 2000s to the 2020s, is what fundamentally sets him apart. He did not just dominate, he redefined athletic aging.
So what does this all mean for someone studying peak performance and endurance? It forces us to reconsider the definition of greatness.
This raises an important question. Given his early struggles with crippling frustration and anxiety in college, the necessity of hiring a sports psychologist like Greg Harden, and his later complete, almost religious dedication to the TB12 method, which focuses heavily on sustained peak performance and recovery, was his unprecedented 2-decade-long dominance, primarily due to inherent generational physical talent. Or was it the unparalleled, long-term application of mental and lifestyle discipline that fundamentally created the greatest of all time? The answer to that dichotomy, discipline versus inherent talent, is the true anatomy of a GOAT.